They laughed when he walked onto the stage barefoot, his clothes worn, his head bowed in shame. The judges expected a joke. The audience expected to be disappointed. But no one was prepared for what happened when this Filipino boy opened his mouth and sang the first note, a sound so pure and painful it felt like it reached straight into the heart. Before the song was over, laughter turned into silence, silence into tears, and tears into a moment the world would never forget. If you believe in hidden talent, second chances, and stories that can change lives, subscribe now and stay with us till the end, because this is a story you must hear. The boy stood backstage, clutching the old guitar that was almost bigger than his thin body. Its wooden surface was scratched and faded, the strings slightly rusted, but to him it was more valuable than gold. His name was Mateo Cruz, a 13-year-old boy from a small coastal village in the Philippines, a place where the sea provided food but rarely hope. As he waited for his turn, he could hear the muffled laughter of people inside the auditorium. It wasn't cruel laughter directed at him yet, but it carried the sound of comfort, of people who had never gone to bed hungry or woken up wondering if there would be rice on the table that day. Mateo swallowed hard, his palms sweating, his heart beating so fast he thought it might break through his chest. Mateo's life had never been easy. He was born in a tiny bamboo house built on stilts near the shore, where the sound of waves was the lullaby of his childhood. His father had been a fisherman, strong and kind, who used to sing while repairing nets under the sun. Those songs were the first music Mateo ever heard. His mother said Mateo learned to hum before he learned to talk. But when Mateo was 7, a powerful storm changed everything. The sea that had fed their family for generations turned violent. His father went out one night to fish, hoping to earn enough to buy food for the week. He never came back. The boat was found days later, broken and empty. From that day on, music stopped in their home. Mateo's mother did everything she could to survive. She washed clothes for neighbors, sold snacks by the roadside, and worked late into the night, but it was never enough. Mateo learned early what hunger felt like. He learned how to smile at school even when his stomach hurt, how to pretend he wasn't tired when he had been helping his mother work until midnight. Schoolmates noticed his torn shoes, his faded uniform, and the way he always kept his head down. Children can be cruel without meaning to be, and laughter followed him wherever he went. Some called him poor boy, others laughed at his accent when he tried to speak English. Mateo stopped talking as much. He found it safer to stay quiet. Music became his escape. One evening, while walking past a neighbor's house, he saw an old guitar leaning against the wall. One of its strings was broken, and it looked like it hadn't been played in years. The neighbor noticed Mateo staring and, with a shrug, handed it to him, saying it was useless anyway. Mateo took it home like it was a treasure. He spent hours trying to make sounds, his fingers hurting, his ears learning. He fixed the broken string with a piece of fishing line. It didn't sound perfect, but it sounded like hope. Every night, after his mother fell asleep, Mateo would sit outside under the stars and sing softly so no one could hear. He sang about the sea, about his father, about dreams he didn't dare say out loud. His voice was raw, untrained, but full of emotion. Music became the place where Mateo could cry without tears and smile without being seen. Years passed, and one day, a poster appeared in the town square. It was an audition announcement. For a famous international talent show, one that promised to find the world's most extraordinary voices. The auditions would be held in Manila. Mateo stared at the poster for a long time. He couldn't imagine himself on a stage like that. People like him didn't belong there. But that night, he dreamed of his father, smiling and nodding as if telling him to try. When Mateo told his mother about the audition, she laughed softly, not in mockery, but in disbelief. She knew how expensive travel would be, how impossible it seemed. But when she saw the look in Mateo's eyes, something changed. She remembered the songs her husband used to sing, the way music had once filled their home. With borrowed money and help from neighbors, they managed to buy a bus ticket to Manila. Mateo packed his guitar, a single change of clothes, and a heart full of fear and hope. The audition day was overwhelming. The city was loud, full of people who looked confident and stylish. Mateo felt invisible and exposed at the same time. Other contestants whispered when they saw him, some smiling, some shaking their heads. A few laughed openly at his bare feet and simple clothes. Mateo wanted to run. He thought of his mother waiting outside, of the money they had borrowed, and forced himself to stay. When his number was called, Mateo walked onto the stage under bright lights that made him squint. The judges looked at him with polite curiosity. One of them asked his name and where he was from. Mateo answered softly, his accent strong. A few people in the audience chuckled. One judge raised an eyebrow and asked what song he would sing. Mateo hesitated. He hadn't planned to sing anything famous. Instead, he said he would sing an original song. That was when the laughter grew louder. An original song from a boy who looked like he had nothing. The judges exchanged looks, unsure what to expect. Mateo felt his face burn. His hands shook as he held the guitar. For a moment, he almost apologized. Then he remembered his father's voice, the waves, the nights under the stars. He closed his eyes and began to play. The first chord was simple, almost fragile. Then Mateo started to sing. His voice wasn't loud, but it carried a weight that silenced the room. It was a voice shaped by loss, by hunger, by dreams whispered into the dark. The laughter stopped. The judges leaned forward. The audience grew quiet. Mateo sang about a boy waiting by the shore for a father who would never return, about a mother who smiled through pain, about believing in tomorrow even when today hurt. As the song continued, something shifted in the room. People felt it in their chests, that familiar ache of memories they had tried to forget. Tears appeared in the eyes of audience members who had laughed just moments before. One judge wiped his eyes, trying to stay composed. Another placed a hand over her mouth, visibly moved. Mateo's voice cracked at one point, but he didn't stop. That crack made the song even more real. When the final note faded, there was silence. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then the audience erupted into applause, louder than anything Mateo had ever heard. People stood, clapping, cheering, some crying openly. The judges stood too. The same judge who had raised an eyebrow earlier now looked shaken. He spoke, his voice thick with emotion, saying he had never expected such depth from such a young boy. Mateo stood frozen, not understanding what was happening. He thought maybe he had done something wrong. When the judges said yes, all of them, without hesitation, Mateo broke down. He cried on that stage, the tears he had held back for years finally falling. The audience cried with him. But the story didn't end there. After the audition aired on television, Mateo's life changed overnight. The video went viral. Millions of people around the world watched the barefoot Filipino boy who turned laughter into tears. Messages poured in from strangers offering support, sharing their own stories of struggle. But with fame came pressure. People expected Mateo to always be perfect, always emotional, always inspiring. He struggled with the sudden attention. Behind the scenes, Mateo faced new challenges. Critics questioned whether his story was exaggerated, whether his emotions were real. Others accused the show of using his poverty for ratings. Mateo felt confused and hurt. He just wanted to sing. At one point, he almost quit. The noise of the world became too loud, drowning out the music in his heart. What saved him was a quiet moment backstage before the next round. He found a small empty room, sat down with his guitar, and sang softly, just for himself. No cameras, no audience. Just him and the music. He remembered why he started. Not for fame, not for applause, but to feel close to his father, to give his mother a better life. On the night of his next performance, Mateo walked onto the stage with more confidence. He sang another original song, this time about resilience and hope. It wasn't just sad, it was powerful. The judges praised his growth, his honesty. He didn't win the competition in the end, but it didn't matter. Mateo had already won something bigger. After the show, opportunities came. Scholarships, music lessons, support for his family. Mateo returned to his village, not as a celebrity, but as a son who could finally help his mother rest. He built a stronger house, helped his neighbors, and continued to sing, sometimes on big stages, sometimes under the stars by the sea. Years later, Mateo would say that the hardest part wasn't being laughed at on that stage, but believing in himself when the world told him he wasn't enough. His story reminded millions that talent can come from anywhere, that a voice can rise from the poorest places and touch the richest hearts. And somewhere by the shore in the Philippines, when the waves crash gently at night, people say you can still hear a boy singing, not for fame, not for applause, but for love, memory, and hope.